The information contained herein has been obtained from sources believed to be reliable. However, no warranty as to the accuracy, completeness, or adequacy of such information is implied. No liability is accepted for errors, omissions, or inadequacies in the information contained herein or for interpretations thereof. Radio NIGP disclaims all liability, including liability for infringement of any intellectual property rights relating to use of information in this broadcast. This information is meant for education purposes only. The reader assumes sole responsibility for the use of these materials to achieve its intended results. Pregnant women, the elderly, and children should avoid prolonged exposure to this information. Apply only to affected areas. Intentional misuse may backfire. Do not use this information if you have high blood pressure, heart disease, or difficulty in urination. May be too intense for some viewers. In case of accidental ingestion, seek professional assistance. Do not play your headset at top volume. Discontinue use of this information if any of the following occurs: itching, aching, vertigo, dizziness, ringing in your ears, vomiting, giddiness, oral or visual hallucinations, tingling in extremities, loss of balance or coordination, slurred speech, temporary blindness, drowsiness, insomnia, profuse sweating, shivering, or heart palpitations. Other restrictions may apply. Breach of these conditions is likely to cause inquantifiable loss that may not be capable of remedy by the payment of damages. Actual mileage may vary. Prices slightly higher west of the Mississippi. All models over 18 years of age. No animals were harmed during the production of this broadcast. Any resemblance to actual people, living or dead, or events past, present, or future is purely coincidental. This information is not to be construed as an endorsement of any product or company, nor as the adoption or promulgation of any guidelines, standards, or recommendations. Some names have been changed to protect the innocent. Some assembly required. Batteries not included. Packages information sold by weight, not volume. Contents may settle during shipment. Have fun.
Hello, and welcome back to Radio NIGP, where the theme for the month is Favorite Clauses. We are joyful you are here, and we want to share our favorite clauses with you and celebrate the holiday season with you. This time of year, everyone is talking about the most popular clause.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
Well, stay tuned and hear from our colleagues about some of their favorite clauses. You know, the ones you use every day to keep your agency safe and protect you. These are the real shining stars that can be our guides when navigating successful outcomes. So stay tuned as we talk more about our favorite clauses and how they are our shining stars guiding the way to a successful contracting journey. We all here at Radio NIGP want to wish you
Happy Holidays!
And this is from Radio NIGP.
Yay!
Yay!
Merry Christmas!
Holidays, John! Hello, and welcome to My Favorite Clause. My name is Barb Johnson, and I was happy to work on establishing a clause to create some reasonable expectations when my entity was going out for a request for information to help us develop specifications in the long run. We wanted to be sure that the suppliers didn't expect to get a contract as a result of the RFI, and so that's how this clause got put together and included in our request. Basically, it indicates that under no circumstances is this request for information to be construed as an invitation to bid, propose, quote, or otherwise solicit business from the public entity, nor should this RFI be interpreted as a definitive list of requirements, strategies, direction, or commitment to the market pertaining to any current or future requirements. The exchange of information does not imply imminent purchase, nor should it in any way be construed as a commitment to purchase by the public entity or encouragement to expend funds in the development or marketing or sales to the public entity. The issuance of the RFI and any subsequent acceptance of market responses, whether in writing or orally, and whether in whole or in part, does not bind or impose any legal obligation upon the public entity or respondents in any way. Nor does it limit the public entity's right to negotiate in its best interest with any respondent at any time. In this case, hopefully, we set reasonable expectations. This was more when RFIs were fairly new to our entity and our market, so it helped us get the point across that we were simply requesting information and not necessarily giving a green light to, come on, solicit us for business. So it was a very helpful clause. Thank you.
Hello, NIGP loyal listeners. My name is Bobby Tolston. Today, I will share with you my favorite clause. I know that it is that time of the year to think about Santa Claus, but my favorite clause is a procurement terms and conditions clause. It is the non-availability of funding or non-appropriation clause. This is my favorite clause because it allows organizations to terminate a contract when funding has not been appropriated beyond the initial year. For small organizations with little funding, this clause really helps when a situation occurs where funding has not been appropriated by the governing body and the good or service is still needed by the entity, but unfortunately must be terminated. I have a personal experience with this clause during my career. The organization that I worked for entered into a multi-year contract for a color copier. This was during the time when the technology was still relatively new. The first year was a trial year where we had no documentation to determine how much funding would be required. After the first year, the consumables were so expensive that the organization decided not to go forward with an additional year. This clause helped our organization because we were able to terminate the contract with 4 years remaining. Some years later, the cost for color copiers dropped and we were able to afford one, but we included copier codes which help reduce and track costs. This is why the non-appropriation or non-availability of funding clause is my favorite clause. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a happy holiday, and I look forward to seeing you again next year. Take care.
Hi, this is Kevin Yin, co-host of the Hot Topic segment of Radio NIGP, wishing you and yours happy holidays.
Hi, David Nash here with Radio NIGP. I'd like to talk to you today about a couple of the clauses or phrases that I found useful in contracts. They are piggybacking and cooperative purchasing. What is piggybacking? It's taking advantage of the opportunity to use another agency's existing contract to purchase something for your agency. Cooperative purchasing, on the other hand, is a method wherein multiple agencies pool their requirements and one of them, acting as the lead agency, issues a solicitation that upon award is then available to all of the participating agencies to use. This method is also known as a joint bid. Additionally, there are many national cooperatives who put contracts in place that may be used by any agency without having been an initial participant in the original solicitation. Both options can be great time savers in many instances. I often encouraged my department users, such as police, fire, and public works, to find contracts through their professional contacts so that we could try and piggyback off of them. The same goes for national cooperatives as well. In meeting with vendors over the years, I found it interesting that many of them would have a one-page handout to give me on which they listed existing contracts that they had in place with other public agencies. I thought this was a smart thing to do on their part, and I occasionally availed myself of these contracts. I also made it a point to ask other vendors who visited me if they had existing contracts that I might be able to piggyback. If they didn't have a list to hand out, I'd point out to them the benefit of doing so on their future visits to other agencies. It's certainly a potential benefit to us all. It's important to know that each agency should ensure that their enabling legislation allows them to participate in either of these methods. There are sometimes instances where an agency does not approve of such methods due to issues with local preference and/or supporting the local vendor community. In such cases, these agencies may not act as a lead agency. Each agency needs to ensure that the method of solicitation and award does not conflict with its own procedures. My local NIGP chapter has a very strong cooperative group, and it works to make the solicitation and award of a lead agency's contract take into consideration all of the requirements of its member agencies. However, in some cases, the co-op has not allowed an agency to take the lead as they have a particular requirement in their procurement code that most other agencies do not have. As a courtesy to our fellow procurement professionals, it is worth including a clause in every agency's boilerplate language that allows the piggybacking of its contract. You never know when your agency may need to avail themselves of someone else's contract. I hope that you find these methods as useful as I did when I was still an active procurement official. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you again soon on Radio NIGP.
Hi, my name is Don Buffum, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about one of my favorite clauses. We have it on our contract approval sheet that we require when a department submits a contract to us, asking us to approve a contract. And what that clause does is looks at conflict of interest. We realized that there was no way for me to know if Bob Jones Hardware was owned by Bob Jones, who works for the university, or Bob Jones' wife maybe worked for the university. So we've added a clause to our contract cover sheet. And what that says is, by signing below, I certify that I'm not aware of any conflict of interest as defined by MSU policy and other applicable Mississippi law resulting from entering into this contract. Specifically, I do not have and am not aware of any other person involved in the solicitation, selection, or approval of this contract who has an association with or material financial interest in the contracting company or other companies associated with the contract. It's not a relative, including spouse or parent, child or sibling, or spouse of any of those persons with an association with or with a material interest in this contracting company or in any other companies associated with this contract, or any negotiations related to prospective employment with the bidding company. So the contract owner, the contract approver have to sign this, and that way we know that they've at least considered it. Now, quite honestly, as with most clauses, they're probably not looking at it. They're probably not considering it. But it does give us the legal ability to go back and hold them to accountability and liability if there is a problem. Not much of a clause, but it works and it's helped us tremendously. And it takes a little bit of pressure off me signing those contracts, knowing that it's those individuals that have signed it that will take on the risk of a true conflict of interest, not me. I hope you have a great Christmas, or holiday season, I guess, and hope to see you next year and enjoy it. And if you have any questions about anything in procurement that you'd like to hear the people on Hot Topics discuss, let us know. We'd love to hear from you and give us something to talk about, because we love talking about procurement. Have a great day. Bye.
Hello, I am Stacy Gregg. I am actually the host of I Don't Look Good in Orange, and I'm here to wish you a happy Cocoa Day, happy Ambrosia Day, happy Gingerbread House Day, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Spirit-filled Advent, and if I didn't capture you on any of those days, then Merry Festivus, and I look forward to seeing you after we all share a Happy New Year. Be safe, and I'll see you in January.
I have a clause to use when my entity is going to share some confidential information with another party to a contract. We usually want to keep that information confidential. In fact, sometimes we are required to make sure that it does not get released into the public. If you want an example, many governments make sure that the engineering specifications of their public infrastructure are not available to terrorists looking for vulnerabilities. This text defines what is confidential, and it puts a contractual obligation on another party to treat that information with a really high level of care and not release it unless it's authorized. Note that this clause can be modified and made more specific. If you have something tangible you're thinking about, go ahead and list it out. Another way to say that is that this clause as written, well, none of the clauses on this show as written are a perfect magic bullet. You may need to customize them. Also notice that this one is written in a one-sided way for when my entity is the one with confidential information that we need to share. But these kinds of clauses can be worded in a mutual way if both parties are exchanging confidential information. This clause should not be in every contract. Only use it when it's necessary and justified, because it puts an extra burden on the other party. You know, that's why I like contracts. They make you think about what should be included and exactly how to say it.
Hello. Welcome to Way to Grow, an NIGP mentorship moment. Today we're doing something a little different here at Radio NIGP in observance of the holidays. All of us are sharing our favorite clause with all of you. And my favorite clause is one that I found recently from one of my neighboring South Florida communities, and I'd like to give credit to the town of Davie, Florida for sharing this with me. After all, public procurement is all about sharing and helping each other out. And what better time of year than now to do just that? So let's take a look at the clause, shall we? This is our equitable adjustment provision and escalation clause. And this clause specifically addresses unanticipated situations that may occur as a result of extreme or unforeseen volatility in the marketplace, which could be created by product shortages from high demand, such as what we saw during the pandemic, supply chain issues, or quick spiraling inflation that catches completely off guard. Before invoking the clause, however, we would require the contractor to provide documentation that the volatility is being caused by one of four criteria. You can see in the clause number one is the volatility is due to causes wholly beyond the contractor's control. Contractor couldn't see it coming, neither could anybody else. Number two, the volatility affects the marketplace or industry, not just the particular contractor's source of supply. So no matter where we go, we're going to have this problem. Number three, the effect on pricing or availability of supply is substantial. It's a big change. And number four, the volatility so affects the contractor that continued performance of the contract would actually result in a substantial loss, and it doesn't do any good to make a contractor perform when it's impossible for the contractor to perform. It doesn't help anybody. So, in essence, this is the contractual equivalent to, and in case of fire, break glass sign that you might see in any building. You didn't necessarily expect it to happen, but you need to have a means to react quickly in order to keep the contract in place and to ensure your own continuity of supply. The clause may not be perfect, but it can sure provide a valuable tool in your contract toolbox. Look at the time. It's about time for another clause to be on his way, so I better get ready. so that just maybe I can carry them around the Christmas tree. Just a reminder that you can find the NIGP mentorship program as well as our mentorship page on Facebook at www.nigp.org/mentorship. So now this is Keith Glatt speaking and wishing you a happy holidays and an awesome new year, and hoping you'll join me here very soon on Radio NIGP for another segment of Way to Grow. And reminding you that this is Radio NIGP.
Hi, and welcome. We're here to talk to you about the upcoming Leadership Summit, which will be taking place in St. Louis from February 2nd to February 5th. This is an exciting opportunity that will be bringing together 3 NIGP flagship programs. Participants from Leading for Impact, Chapter Academy, and Leaders Edge will all converge in one place to promote cross-program networking and collaboration among all of our leaders at different stages in their career journey. I'm here to talk to you about the Leading for Impact segment, where participants will focus on 3 critical topics. Let me give you a brief overview of each topic. The first one will be leading strategically and driving for results. In this section, they're going to discuss key drivers for leadership regarding an organization strategy process and identifying roles and responsibilities in the process. The second session will focus on leading in times of change. Change. Who doesn't love a good change? And well, we all know change can be slow and uncomfortable, but it's inevitable in our world. In this session, we're going to discuss ways to inspire others to be more flexible and to even be enthusiastic about it. You're going to learn techniques to overcome multiple types of resistance and ensure ways that will empower and buy in ownership and create sustainability for the changes you're making. The third section will be identifying and building talent. Another big issue we face as leaders today is building our talent pool. This session will cover applying coaching elements, utilizing the coaching process to learn how to create and ask transformative questions that will enhance awareness, ownership, and help build accountability within your team. So now I'm going to turn it over to Penny Owens, who's going to talk about Chapter Academy.
Thank you, Kate. So I'm going to talk about Chapter Academy. Registration remains open for Chapter Academy, an annual program developed for chapter leaders to build leadership skills, strengthen chapter operations, increase member engagement, and elevate member services. Thriving chapters lead through action, and we will explore the key elements of such chapters through case studies, examples, and peer-to-peer discussion. Additionally, each chapter attendee will continue to build on the chapter dashboards established last year, a tool for tracking progress provided at no cost to the chapters. Each chapter may send 2 attendees, with NIGP paying the cost of the registration and lodging for the first member, and the chapter covering all costs for the second member. Combining this into the Leadership Summit also provides a unique opportunity for attendees to participate with all summit attendees in working plenary sessions on leadership tracks that include leadership mindset, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and influencing strategies. Academy starts virtually on January 19th, continues in person February 2nd through the 5th in St. Louis, and concludes virtually on June 21st. Please register by December 31st for Chapter Academy via the registration link provided on the Insight community for chapter leaders or by contacting NIGP Chapter Relations Manager, Jennifer Steffen.
Thank you so much, Penny. And we are really looking forward to the upcoming Leadership Summit, where we're going to join the Leaders Edge program that has already begun. We are including the link for registration and look forward to seeing all of you there.
Good tidings, Radio NIGP. My favorite clause comes from the Virginia Public Procurement Act, Section 2.2, 4342, Public Inspection of Records. Our state legislature was kind enough to actually put in writing into our code this particular clause that states a bidder or offer or contractor shall now designate as trade secret or proprietary information an entire bid or proposal or pre-qualification application, any portion of their bid, proposal, or application that does not contain trade secret or proprietary information, and any line item prices or total bid, proposal, or pre-qualification application prices. This makes our lives so much easier when trying to determine whether something should be protected or not. Have a great holiday season.
Hi, I'm Carrie Mathis, Chair of the NIGP Governing Board.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kate Rotella, Chair-elect of the NIGP Governing Board.
On behalf of our entire Governing Board, we'd like to wish you a happy holidays.
And a happy new year.
Okay, I'm so excited. It's my turn. All right. Many of you have heard me speak about my favorite procurements, right? They were for a community development block grant that we had gotten from HUD, or the Department of Commerce had gotten from HUD. And I was blessed to actually prepare a solicitation and ultimately award a contract for full spectrum replacement of citizens' homes. That means this contractor would come in, they would do intake, they would market, they would decide who's best for the program, and then ultimately the citizens would be getting homes that were either repaired or replaced or rehabbed. So here's what happened. I put in my favorite clause, which is called restrictions on presenting terms of use or additional services. Now, what is that clause about? If, again, imagine that we have very vulnerable population, elderly people, they're excited about getting new homes. Our intent was to give them these homes mortgage free. They only had to agree to live in the homes for like 5 years, and then they had their mortgage, but they had no payment for those 5 years. If you are an unscrupulous, or let's say an innovative contractor, then maybe you would figure out a way to sell larger homes, right? How about this? I see you have a lot of children. Maybe you should get a 5-bedroom instead of a 3-bedroom. You have a large family, right? Maybe you need a dining room. Let me show you how we can get you a dining room. Wouldn't it be great if you had a deck? And so this clause actually prevented that from happening. They could not present any extras, and they could not have them sign any paperwork that would bind them into something other than what we said we wanted them to be bound into. So now, how would you use this contract? I say to you, anytime you have something that is what I call front-facing your citizens, then you would put this clause in there to make sure they are protected. For instance, if you work for a city and you're doing something for trash collection, then maybe you put this in there so your contractor can't go offering blinged out Herbie Curbs. Or let's say if you are working for a school district and you need someone to sell your students their graduation supplies, you put something in there so that they can't go adding in a whole bunch of stuff that your administration had already asked for. That's what you do. Again, my favorite clause is called restrictions on presenting terms of use or offering additional services. And it's my favorite because this clause ultimately protects the people that you're trying to serve with your solicitation. If you want more information on it, send me an email. We actually have been using this clause in South Carolina since 2015. I'd be glad to share it with you and also the guidance for use. Otherwise, you all, I wish each of you a very happy holiday season, and I cannot wait to see you in January.
Hi, this is Tara Acton with Radio NIGP, and I am excited to share with you today my favorite clause. And it might seem a little bit silly that my favorite clause is a price escalation clause, but I'm hoping after I share a little bit of information with you, you will understand and appreciate why this is my favorite clause. This particular clause comes from a contract that I wrote in 2012. And one of the things I like about this clause is I was able to take some information that I got from a professional conference on best practices for escalation clauses and implement it in this contract at that time. And so some of the things I love about this clause is that it is clearly tied to a well-defined index, the Arizona Department of Transportation's Bituminous Material Price Adjustment Index, which was published monthly and was available. I don't think this link works anymore, but it is still available. And it was something that was clearly defined to the awarded contractors, who was responsible for calculating the bituminous price adjustments, how those adjustments were going to be communicated with the contractor and with county staff. It was a little bit of a fun one for me because I'm also a math nerd, and this wasn't a straight increase on a coefficient or, something like the Opus fuel prices. It required some calculations. This was for our asphalt and emulsions contract. And so we had various asphalts, emulsions that had different contents of bituminous material in them. Liquid asphalt's 100% bituminous material, where some of our other ones were diluted. And so there was also a percentage that was factored into the price escalation. So it was a little bit fun to work on. And what I have to share, or I'd be being a little bit dishonest with you, is the nerdy side of this. The part that I loved the most about this clause was I was able to create an Excel spreadsheet using if-then formulas to streamline our escalation process. And part of the thing that I loved is that this literally saved me more than an hour, probably a couple of hours every single month when we did our price escalations. So prior to cleaning up this clause and prior to creating the Excel spreadsheet that I will be sharing with you guys, our escalation process involved pulling the price and then actually going through the activity of calculating the change in the index and then applying the change in the index to each one of the items. The prior procurement officer had created sort of a bare bones Excel spreadsheet, which they did use to calculate the price, but it was a matter of copying and pasting the formula, going in and editing the formula to make sure that it referred to the right base price, and then doing sort of logic checks to make sure that if we were seeing an increase from the prior year, that it actually showed from the prior month, that it actually showed an increase on the calculated price. And so there was a lot of room for human error. It was a very time-consuming process. And then I had to go in and say, okay, did I get everything that was awarded to Cactus Asphalt? Or did I miss one of their items? And did I have a typo in how I typed it? We would translate it into a letter where we listed out the pricing. And so when I created the spreadsheet, I intentionally color coded it based on which vendor was awarded each line item. And I changed the letter format in how we sent the price adjustments to the vendors so that it was a table format so that I could just copy and paste the cells, paste them into the table format. There wasn't any risk in me having an error. So there were just lots of things that I liked about it. The nerdy side of me loves to show the if-then formula. And so that's what you'll see on your screen. And I got to use some of the absolute values, the little dollar signs in the Excel, so that it would always refer back to that E column, and that it would always refer back to row 6 because that was where the ADOT price was contained. So the formula essentially says that if the particular month I'm working in, the column month that I'm working in, and the row 6, which is that ADOT price, if that value is greater than 0, meaning that I have entered data showing that we had a new bituminous price, that it would calculate this formula, which was the current ADOT bituminous price minus the absolute price at time of award times the percentage of bituminous material actually found in the product plus the original base price for that particular project. And then the other side of it is if it wasn't greater than zero, so really if it was zero or less than zero, it didn't calculate anything. And so it would create a zero value. I really enjoyed kind of working on this. I'm a little bit nerdy and get giddy when I see this formula because I know how much time it saved for me for the 4-ish years that I continued to work with the county. I know that it saved time for now my staff that still uses this particular formula and actually just a variation of this spreadsheet. And so that is one of the reasons that I absolutely love this clause. To have a little bit of fun, I'm also going to share with you the actual spreadsheet itself. And if we scrolled through here, you would see that we actually used the spreadsheet from August of 2012 until June of 2017. You can ignore these dates. This data was me kind of playing with it. But I left my employment with the county in October of 2016, and they continued to use this spreadsheet and this process until June of 2017. One of the fun things when I came back as a director was when I was reacquainting myself with all of the county's contracts and getting a handle on sort of the responsibilities of the various procurement officers, I realized that they actually were still using this spreadsheet. They had just removed some of the data and saved it into the new award when they awarded a new contract in 2019. And just to share with you kind of how quickly the process works, we'll just pretend that we got a price for August of 2017. And let's say it was a substantial increase over June of 2017. And all of a sudden, the bituminous price jumped to $450. And look at how quickly it populates a price. And some of the fun things that I built into it, although it's a huge increase month over month, it's still actually a 24% decrease from the time that the contract was first awarded. And again, having those color-coded values, it was easy for me or the assigned procurement officer just to go in, highlight anything that is shaded orange, and put that in the letter to Cactus Asphalt, and highlight anything that was shaded green and put that in the letter for Western Emulsions. So there's a little bit of a glimpse into my nerdy procurement brain and the things that get me excited when it comes to procurement. And I hope you enjoyed this. This is my favorite clause, and this is Radio NIGP. Thank you, and I hope you have a very Merry Christmas.
Hello and happy holidays from Radio NIGP. I'm Valerie Scott, and I'm here to tell you about one of my favorite contract clauses, which is our livable wage clause. Our clause states in summary that the contractor has to pay at least a minimum livable wage of $21.07 per hour, not including fringe benefits, to full-time employees of the contractor for the work performed and billed under our contract. The city may annually adjust the required livable wage to account for inflation, and the requirement does not apply to contracts that are exempt from purchasing code or when we are using non-city funds, such as state and federal grants. One of the things that I appreciate about this clause is that it excludes fringe benefits. So this is really getting to the core matter that the wage paid to the employee needs to be that amount that's stated, not the cost of employing them, that fully burdened rate. And this is important, particularly where we are. So I work for the city of Longmont in Boulder County, Colorado, and Boulder County is one of the most expensive places to live. It's just housing prices are insanely high, and it's difficult to get housing, and it's just an expensive place to live. And so the League of Women Voters lobbied this cause to our city council. They actually started with city employees and said, "City, you need to pay your employees at least a living wage. And on top of that, you need to make sure your contractors are paying their employees a livable wage." And our council really took that to heart and they believed in it. They were thinking of our custodial cleaning staff that was outsourced and some of our snow removal staff that was outsourced and landscaping services, and thinking that they were very concerned that employees of those companies might not have been making a livable wage. And so they took it to heart and they did make sure every single employee of the city makes at least this amount of money, and we started putting it in our contracts as well. And while we have a lot of other economic factors that make living here difficult, the housing market is a mess. There's very little affordable housing. There's even less attainable housing. This is one step in the direction of trying to make this a community where people can live and work and live a comfortable life without having to struggle. Now, I don't think our clause is perfect, and there are definitely things that keep me up at night about it. For example, I think about the fact that this clause goes in every contract, regardless of where the contractor is. So that has created some issue and some tension when, for example, we're working with an IT company and they have employees all around the world, and they're like, well, do we still have to pay a livable wage? And we've made some business calls on some of those cases, but it is a really good point when you're putting together a livable wage clause and thinking this is just going to apply to everyone. Maybe it not so much. If someone is working from a location where a livable wage is something lower, or in a different country even, it's much harder to figure out if this clause makes sense. But it's also hard to figure out how do we say it only applies to vendors who are local when they're competing for contracts against people who are not local. So those are the things that keep me up at night about it, and I'm sure we'll come to some good resolutions and answers over time. But I do think overall it is a good spirited requirement, and the people's hearts were in the right place who lobbied for this, and I definitely appreciate the fact that people out there cared that public servants and mid-wage earners have an opportunity to live and work in our community. That's all I have for you today. Thanks again. Valerie Scott, Radio NIGP, signing off.
Hello, friends. Can you believe we are finding ourselves at the end of another year? Where did the time go? 2022 has been such an exciting year. Procurement professionals continue rising to the challenges we face daily in this ever-changing world. We show our value through innovative solutions to supply chain issues and market conditions. And we've been able to continue our professional development and are enjoying meeting in person once again. We at Radio NIGP hope that you've enjoyed the broadcasts we've brought to you throughout the year. We try to capture those things that we think will be most beneficial to you, but we're also open to hearing your ideas on what you might like to see or hear in 2023. Reach out and share your thoughts. Until next year, friends, stay well and enjoy the holidays.